Good morning, everyone, and welcome again to our backyard. I started the April garden tour, our backyard tour, by just doing a pan of our yard, and I am going to do that again. I'm excited to share with you got a couple of new things in the yard. But I'm just going to pan from north to south. I'm going to start in a little bit different area today for the May backyard garden tour. I'm going to start with what we call our trellis bed and our tree bed, because a maple tree used to be here. And I looked through the April tour yesterday, and it's fun for me to go back and take a look at how much the plants have grown, and certainly see that from last month to this month. So I have passion vines that are bookended in pots on both sides of what we call our trellis bed, and they're growing very nicely. And then I have the flamicanthus in the front, which have really bushed out. I'm going to get a little bit closer. This is the host plant to the Texas crescent butterfly, but it's also a hummingbird favorite when it blooms. And it is gorgeous this year. This is its second year, and I love the growth on this. Planted some zinnias down here in the corner, and I've got a butterfly bush. Inside the bed, I have some volunteer balloon milkweed that I'm letting just grow. Volunteer snapdragon that I haven't pulled. And I did plant some tithonia. And I just want to see how that's going to do. It's probably going to compete a little bit here, but I'm okay with that. Flamicanthus is really hardy, so the tithonia is starting to bloom. See a couple of blooms underneath, and I'm excited. On the end, in prior videos, I mentioned that I have passion vine in pots, and I saw a Gulf fritillary the last few days coming and laying eggs. I'm happy to see, there we go. I'm very happy to see caterpillars, because all of our Gulf fritillary died in the December freeze, and I haven't seen a Gulf fritillary in 5 months, and I'm so glad to see them again. And they are here laying eggs all over, which is great. And this is a balloon milkweed. It has that name for the very unusual seed pods that it creates. Right now it's just flowering, and believe it or not, hummingbirds like to come and drink from these tiny little flowers from the balloon milkweed. The seed pods get to be balls like balloons, and they're look like they have hair on them, which is really odd looking, but they're a lot of fun. And last year's balloon milkweed had blown seeds into this bed, and I have some volunteer milkweed that has been coming up, especially if I go around the back. I'm going to just look down the bed. The vine is growing nicely on the trellis. It might even in another month or so have this top part pretty well starting to fill in. Okay, I'm going to pan over to what we call the tree bed. And I have done videos on this also. This is the gorgeous Amante and Amistad salvia. Again, it is just performing beautifully. I'm going to have to cut it back because it is towards the end of its bloom, but I just haven't been able to do that yet, but I need to do that soon. Same with the Salvia leucantha, which is also our Mexican bush sage. It's been prolifically flowering and continuing to send up shoots, but I do need to come out here and I'm going to do a little bit of deadheading. I'm going to go around to the other side of the tree bed. On this side, I have my David Verity Cuphea, which is saved from last year, although it lost all of its leaves when I moved it into the garage. It is recovering and really starting to bloom nicely. And I have pink mounding lantana here, which has been blooming wonderfully. My Greg's Mist flower is spreading, which I was hoping that it would do. And it is, there we go, a butterfly favorite and a native plant to Texas. So is my liatris, or I've got one of the liatris over here blooming. It's also a native and a pollinator favorite. Coming around to the liatris. And then I have more mounding lantana, and this is the red lantana on this side. So all of this in here is butterfly and hummingbird favorites, and they are here daily. All right, I'm going to walk over here to what I call our 4x4, and in this bed I've got pentas in the front, and yesterday I had a tiger swallowtail all over. It was a male, and it was all over this red penta. They're blooming so nicely. And next to it, I have a bloom stalk, a bloom head forming on the David Verity phlox. This is also a native to Texas, and it blooms a beautiful bloom ball. It is a paniculata, so it is a perennial, and it has a kind of an orchid color with a deep dark purple eye, and I can't wait for it to bloom so I can show you what that bloom is like, but it is getting closer to blooming here. Oh, it's not going to want to focus. There it does. And I have a coneflower, which is interesting, is when I very first planted my butterfly bed, I had this powwow purple coneflower, and I planted them all in the bed and one in a pot just to see which would perform better. And this pot is still going, so I've left it there. Don't really protect it, don't really do much with it. It looks like I need to fertilize it, but that coneflower is rewarding me with a really pretty flower. And I've got a couple of coneflowers here, a self-seeded ageratum, a volunteer balloon milkweed, and a Blew My Mind purple evolvulus. That is a returner. All right, I'm gonna kind of stand back, and I've got my purple porterweed that is a pollinator hit. And now I'm going to look into my little south garden, which is a nook. And in this, I have changed my strategies as I have mentioned. And I am now planting in pots because it bakes back here because of the brick and the small enclosed area, and it also has a drainage issue. And so I am trying pots this year, so we'll see how that goes. But I did do a little bit of switching around, and I switched out and brought out of there, I brought my hardy hibiscus, which is doing nicely, and I've got some blooms on it. So I will have big dinner plate blooms pretty soon, and I've got a lot of little blooms that are forming. So I'm looking forward to my hardy hibiscus flowering. And if in my hibiscus video I mentioned that there are different types of hibiscus. I think I failed to mention my blue chiffon, which is right here, Rose of Sharon. But this hibiscus, golly, grows all the way down to zone 4. So hibiscus plants can be grown in most of the United States. It just depends on the variety. And I'm going to pan over this way. And I have selected plants with my pollinators in mind. And so I've got butterfly bushes back there. I've got a blue porterweed, a Cuphea. I've got native salvia, a little Joe Pye weed, who's growing tried and true, lantana, and also, like I mentioned last month, that I am trying the bubblegum, Supertunia Vista from Proven Winners, to see how that will grow back here in the heat. And then I'm going to pan up because I have multiple giant milkweed for our monarch caterpillars. Now I'm going to go in the back. My firebush is doing wonderfully. I love the growth. I lost this firebush, and these two had died to the ground. And so I love the growth that it's put on, and I've even got some flowering. And then the Cape honeysuckle back here, I mentioned in my vines video, is also growing really nicely, and it should be growing up this 2-panel trellis. Love, love, love my vines and bushes back here. It is a hummingbird and butterfly feast back here. And I've got milkweed, and then I also replaced the milkweed that we lost this past winter. Coming around the corner, I've got the coral honeysuckle, the 3 panels of coral honeysuckle that's trellised, the yellow cestrum, and then pentas that are growing so wonderfully and blooming. The pentas right now are just loving their life. So I changed out my hanging pots, and this is a hummingbird salvia, which is a salvia type that is really good for hanging baskets because of the trailing down that it does, and the butterflies also really enjoy this. And so I bought a couple of plants and switched out my baskets. All right, so continuing on down this way, my Turk's cap is continuing to grow and bloom. This is also a native to Texas, hummingbird and butterfly favorite. Got my coral porterweed, and it's fun because the hummingbird will come and drink the nectar right here below our kitchen window, and it's fun to watch. And then I have a new planter that I just recently planted up, and I really like the color choice of this. So I'll see how well this does. But in here I've got the Super Venus Sparkling Amethyst. I find this flower. This is a first for me this year. Again, it's supposed to be a butterfly favorite. And then the celosia back here, I thought was pretty interesting. Also, again, I haven't had this. Supposed to be a butterfly favorite. And this celosia is called Dragon's Breath. The color definitely looks like it, doesn't it? And then I've always wanted a Salvia Gregii, and this happens to be Mirage Violet Autumn Sage. And it might seem kind of weird to put this in with a Superbena, but the first year it said it can use a lot of water, or you need to water very regularly. So once it's established, it doesn't need a lot of water. And so hopefully this first year it'll perform nicely. I love the color of those flowers of the salvia. So we'll see. Again, it's an experiment. I'm going to pan over to this pot, which is also another hummingbird salvia, and I planted 2 small zinnias in here. I just like the color. Again, it kind of reminds me of that celosia. So this is also new, and it's a double Zahara cherry. Coming out, I like my urn planter. I've got some plants that I don't know how well they're going to play with each other, but so far they've been playing very nicely. I've got a Cat's Pajamas Nepeta, Blew My Mind Evolvulus, a Paradise Supertunia Vista, and then a Mystic Spires Salvia. And right now, I'm going to come over to the other side. Right now, they are all playing together very nicely. And then I have my 4 pots, large pots of 3 hibiscus. They don't have a whole lot of blooms today. They were blooming a couple days ago nicely. I've got the pink, the yellow with the red throat, and then just the plain red. I'm going to come on over here. And I've got 1 hibiscus flowering. And then to bookend it, I have a David Verity Cuphea. It doesn't get as much sun though, and so even though it has a few blooms on it and it's growing, it's not as nice as if it was in the full sun. And my tree is starting to cast shade on it. I did switch out my 2 planters that had the marigold in it, and I switched out all the spring flowers that had just died out. They are done, and I added lantana. So I'm going to see how this goes. This is the mounding type, so I'm hoping this will play nicely here because it is such a lantana is such a pollinator magnet that I wanted to see. This lantana I got at Lowe's, and it is the Luscious Royale Pina Colada. I just like the way the colors mixed with the yellow marigold. All right, I am going to come this way. And in the video that I did on my vertical planting, I had mentioned how our cardinal climber is really flowering, and it is, interestingly. And I had some, golly, this is like 2 or 3 year old pentas that looked miserable in the winter. Of course, they don't like the winter, and but I nursed them along, and they are performing very nicely for me. Look at that. They're loving the heat and humidity, and you couldn't tell that they looked awful earlier this spring. I had to get over here on the side to focus in because the sun is starting to come up, my Mexican flame vine. And this was visited by swallowtails and monarch butterflies all yesterday, and it is flushing out with blooms. This is the second flush of blooms. The first flush, it was just completely covered. But I also noticed how much it's grown. So interestingly, in last month's video, it wasn't as high on the trellis, and I love how much this has grown. I'm going to pan a little bit over to the hanging baskets that I have in my tree. I was gone visiting over Mother's Day, and I forgot to take my begonias out of the full sun. And down here in the south, we are hot now along the Texas Gulf Coast, and I did burn the leaves, and so I have moved them and switched out my planters that I showed you with the hummingbird salvia. And I'm going to quickly mention my red mandevilla here. I got this as a tiny little plant. This is its second year of growth, and I protected it in the winter, and I just love how it's rewarding me. I just recently did a video on my shade bed, and oh my goodness, I love the colors in this shade bed. I am going to just pan down before I talk about it. Oh, everything in here is just loving its life. So my shrimp plants on the end have been blooming beautifully since the end of February. And as I've mentioned, I have seen hummingbirds here, so I do know that they frequent the shrimp plant. And a real surprise for me has been how much I love these caladiums. I know it's dark here at the moment, a little bit darker because I'm filming this early in the morning, but this pink just explodes during the day. And I bought these as bedding plants, 3 to each one of these pots. So what an inexpensive way to have beautiful caladiums. And I am also very happy with my sweet potato vine, both the purple and the chartreuse color. I do have a new addition, and that happens to be a shade caladium back here that I just planted recently. It is, let me focus in, a heart-to-heart series called Splash of Wine. It is a shade caladium that's supposed to get about 18 to 24 inches tall, so I'm really excited. I also like the color of that. And so I have the pink caladiums, and then I'm going to pan over just a little bit more, and I've got my white and green caladium in the back. He's also loving his life. I switched around some of the pots just a little bit to bring a little bit more balance to this area. So when I look at this bed from this side, I love the look when I look down. The plants are all nice and healthy. My favorites back here are getting a little bit drowned out. I might have to do some pruning. But right now, at the end of May, this bed loves its life. And I finally made it to the north end of our backyard. And this was the very first bed that I put in. And you can see it's pretty much dominated right now by fennel. It is beautiful, thick and lush. Again, this is a host plant to the black swallowtail. And so I love this grouping of fennel. But it's also overshadowing my powwow purple coneflower a little bit. And so they aren't as far along this year as they were last year. And I'm probably going to have to come in here and do some trimming, which I haven't done. I've just let the fennel do its thing, and it's done its thing. Got a bush salvia, 2 of them on the end here, that have been flowering the red maraschino cherry color flowers. My Miss Violet butterfly bush has not done well for me, and I have had it in a pot for a year now, and it just says, I don't think I like this spot. So I'm either going to keep it here and try to see what happens this year, because it does have a little bit more sun, but it just is not happy. And then I have this shrub, which is a senna. Again, another host plant to a lot of the sulfur yellow butterflies. And I really like this bush because it's so airy, and it does bloom in later summer. It does bloom such a beautiful yellow bloom. Okay, I'm going to come around. My salvia that I've had here, the rock and fuchsia, is getting towards the end of its bloom. I'm going to need to do some deadheading along with my mystic spires. And my little misty back here all has been blooming their little hearts out. And I'm going to have to do some deadheading to get that next flush of blooms. And then in the bed, to close it out, I've got milkweed, both tropical and balloon milkweed. And I'm going to come down here because this guy's just really doing nicely. The false nettle. I thought I had that drowned out last year, and I repotted it, put it in this large pot, and it is loving its life. It's the host plant to the red admiral butterfly, and also the question mark. I'm going to come up and just kind of pan the yard. Got my tree in the way a little bit here. So this is what I see when I look down from north to south. And this is what I see when I look from south to north. Well, thank you for joining me on this May garden tour. A lot of things have grown in the Gulf Coast area. It's warm, it's humid. When I say warm, we're talking low 90s. Humid, sunny, and everything just bursts to life once sun comes out and hits these sun-loving plants. I hope you all have just a wonderful day today. And thank you for joining me in my May garden tour. Bye, everyone.